Hello, friends, and welcome back to Weird Wednesdays, where we dive head first into the unknown. Tattooed Biker here with you, and in tonight's video, I've got something hair-raising in store for you. We're going to explore some spine-chilling stories sent in by you viewers about your eerie encounters with unexplained creatures and cryptids while behind the wheel. So buckle up, because things are about to get unsettlingly real. But before we hit the road, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay updated on all things unexplained. So now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's ride. Number 1. Dear TB, I've started sharing my encounter in Indiana back in 2007 around recently to a couple of other channels, but this one also seems like a good place. I work night shift, and a coworker and I were both driving down a country road after work, probably around 4:45 a.m. It was still dark outside. I saw his taillights get brighter, like he was hitting his brakes. Then he swerves down into the ditch line and comes back out onto the road and keeps going. As I approach the same area, I see this really tall, black figure walking in the road. It's moving in a very weird and unnatural gait, like it was kind of blowing in the wind, but it clearly wasn't. I first thought it was a really tall person, wrapped up in a big black blanket, because I didn't see any arms or head, just 2 legs and a torso. I had to swerve over to avoid it too, but I basically came to a full stop, and the thing walks past my driver window. It had to have been around 7 feet tall, as it was leaning forward and was at least a foot or so taller than the top of my vehicle. As it got behind my vehicle, I could see the taillights illuminating its legs, but couldn't make out any detail like hair or any clothing. Just large, thick, black legs. I took off down the road once it was behind me and saw that my coworker pulled into a gravel parking lot, so I pulled up beside him. He's freaking out, asking if I saw it too, and how it didn't have a head and other ramblings. I said we should go back and try to see what it is, because it seemed oblivious to us driving right at it. He didn't want to, but he ended up following behind me. We drove back the way we came, and in around the same area, there was a large black dog laying across the road. This was not your normal-sized canine. It was much larger than any normal dog, but it looked dead. It wasn't there when we just drove through less than 3 minutes ago. Anyway, I decided I was going to get out and see if it's alive or not, and move it off to the side of the road, because you really can't drive around it without going off the edge of the road because of the way it was laying. As I get about 15 feet away, it raises its head up and looks back at me. Its eyes are glowing yellow, but I still say that was due to the vehicle lights causing eye shine. It lets out a low, deep, rumbling growl, and I stop instantly. It attempts to stand up. Seems like it has some sort of issue with its front legs, but stands up and continues to stand up, all the way to 2 legs, like a person would. It only stood on its hind legs for a second or two, enough time for it to look at me. But then it hunkers back down to what looks like on all fours and runs off to the wooded area. But there's a pretty tall fence there, so I don't really know how it managed to disappear, because it would have had to go over, under, or through the fence, but it seemed to just vanish. I also don't think it was using its front legs when it ran off, because I never saw them moving. Now, after all of this, there was one last strange thing. My coworker gets out of his car after the dog thing ran off, and he comes up to me, basically saying, "What was that?" And as we were talking, I noticed a mouse standing between us. It was also on its hind legs, kind of sitting there, washing its face. I nudged it with my shoe, and it doesn't even seem to care. Kind of like the first thing that was walking, it was completely oblivious to our presence. It just kept on cleaning itself. We left and went our separate ways. I woke up later in the day and started looking into werewolves and came across dogman stories. The only thing I will say about all of that is this didn't have the hands and feet like often claimed by witnesses. It had normal dog paws. It just had a large black wolf-style look about itself. But its fur was really fluffy, which didn't really seem to match with normal wolf-type fur. It wasn't a bear. It didn't have mange. I know the difference between a bear or something like that. It just looked like a very large black dog. The first thing we saw, some people said it sounds like a Fresno nightcrawler, but those have been white in appearance, and not nearly as thick and tall. Someone recently asked if maybe it had wings, and that's what was concealing its arms and head, as if they were draped around the front of it. I had never thought about that before, and I can't say one way or another because I didn't see any sort of detail on its body, just blackness. The way it moved just seemed very odd, otherworldly in fact. I always think of those inflatable tube men that flap around in the wind at car dealers or some of the events when I try to describe its movements. It was all just really weird. The mouse, that might have been the oddest thing to me because I physically touched it, so I know it was real, but it just didn't seem to care. It wasn't until I recently made the connection that all three of the creatures were on two legs at one point. Are they all connected? Who knows? I never saw anything like that ever again. And I only live about 4 miles from where it happened, and I drive through the area often. I wish I had more answers, but all I get is more questions. As someone who's been pretty skeptical most of my life, I try to explain it away with some logical manner, but I can't. I have said that the dog was playing with the mouse, must have got hit, and its front legs were hurt. And that would explain why it was walking on its back legs, and why the movement seemed unnatural. The mouse was traumatized from the dog messing with it. That explains why it looked all wet and why it was cleaning itself. That's the version I've accepted for many years. The only problem is that whenever it was originally walking down the road, it was so much larger than the dog. When the dog stood up, it was maybe 6 feet tall, but whatever walked past my window was at least 7 and leaning forward. The walking torso was also a lot thicker than the dog, as the legs were very thick, and the dog's were normal dog legs. Anyway, thanks for reading. Signed, Chad. Number 2. Dear Biker, this is my first ever post to this channel, so I apologize if there's anything I've formatted wrong. I live in a very rural, farming area of Kansas, and this happened in the fall of 2007. I went for a night drive with a friend on some country roads amid the cornfields. Where I live, cornstalks grow tall on both sides of the road in many places. It's a very desolate and dark area at night. No one around for miles, and you could see the Milky Way in all her glory because there aren't any light pollution. As I was driving, we saw something resembling the cartoon character Gumby run across the dirt road lit up by our headlights. It crossed maybe only 10 feet in front of us. The creature was dark maroon in color, and with bulbous hands and feet, no digits. It walked on 2 legs. It had very smooth-looking skin, almost like a shark or a dolphin. It didn't stop to look at us, and I never felt threatened. The creature ran like it was afraid, from one cornfield across to the other. We didn't witness any more strange sightings that night, or have any weird experiences after. Have you ever seen a maroon creature like I did? Just wondering. Signed, Eric. Number 3. Hey Biker. 5 years ago, I was driving to work, bright and early in the morning, and the SUV next to me was in a right turn only lane. And I was in the straight lane while we were waiting for the light to change. I didn't think much of it or look at the SUV or driver until the light changed, and they also tried to go straight. At that point, I looked over as they were basically trying to run me off the road to go straight and was veering right into me. I was going to honk, but then the middle-aged lady that was driving jerked her head to the side, looked right at me, and her whole face morphed into a terrifying face. I don't even know how to describe it. It elongated and looked awful and terrifying. A lot like that Scream painting by Edward Munch, but way more terrifying. It's like she decided to show me what she really is, and it changed in a flash. I slammed on my brakes and she, or it, cut in front of me, and I ended up taking the very next right turn just to get away from her, and parked on the side of the road just trying to catch my breath. I don't do drugs, and I sometimes have a couple of beers after work, but nothing crazy. I've never seen anything like this before or after, and I've been too scared to mention it to anyone, for fear of being called a crazy person. I saw her face change right before my eyes, and I am to this day absolutely certain of what I saw. The feeling that came over me at that instant was just absolute terror, and the look she gave me was certainly menacing. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like that? Thanks in advance for reading. Signed, Anonymous. Number 4. Hello, biker. For as long as I can remember, a creature has followed me. I don't know what it is, and I theorize that sharing this may provide perspective, and perhaps you can help me identify this monster. First, I would like to describe this being as incredibly tall, horribly emaciated, long limbs that sharpen to points at the nails, and from the shoulders up it resembles a bear. Every time I've seen this figure, it has been at night, and while some features are horrifyingly distinguishable, shadows do obscure the finer detail. However, I've never seen the reflection of eyes, and that scares me more than any of its other characteristics. Now, I will retell the most recent sighting, but bear in mind, situations such as this frequently happens, as I stated above. I've had the displeasure of seeing this beast for years, and it has never broken habit but once. I was driving home from a night of video games downtown at my friend's apartment around midnight, and all was normal until I exited the highway. I saw it near the dealership, but I kept driving because, while I don't see this creature every night, it does keep me company probably every 3 or 4 nights. So while I'm not immune to the fear it induces, I am slightly desensitized. However, I see it again near the gas station under the cover of shadows. Again, I saw it near my old high school, and still I kept driving home. This thing is so fast that it's able to meet me easily along the route and tease me as well. Whenever it's near, a sense of dread comes over me, and truly as though there are no other emotions besides primal fear and survival. I pulled into my driveway, and there it was across the street, standing near the neighbor's garden shed. Although it has only been close enough to touch me once, it finds its strength to invade my nightmares and keeps me company while I sleep. No one else I have met can see or sense this thing's presence because it seems to wait until I'm alone. Also, worth perhaps noting, once I dreamt that the devil appeared to me and promised to rid me of this creature at the expense of my soul. Of course, I declined, but that could of course be chalked up just to strange dreams and nightmares. In all the years that I've known this foul creature, it has never spoken or gestured to me, only watched from a distance with silent patience. It really creeps me out. What is this thing? Signed, Derek. Number 5. Hey biker, I had a really weird experience about 3 months ago while driving home. I had to move my mom from Minneapolis to Madison, Wisconsin, and I was driving home on one of my trips, moving her stuff alone. It was about 1 a.m. and I was in the middle of nowhere. I wasn't in a town or anything, and I was really tired. because I'd been driving all day, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I distinctly saw a person running out of the woods straight towards the side of my car. I was going about 65, and I thought, okay, I've been driving too long, and now I'm seeing things. All of a sudden, smack into the side of my car. I was terrified. It was pitch black out there. There was no traffic. There's nobody around, and there's nothing near me. I was just in the middle of nowhere, and this thing came out of the woods. It ran into the side of my car. My car was dented. It hit me so hard. Out of the corner of my eye, I was really tired, so I don't know what it was, but I could have sworn it was on two legs and was probably about 6 feet tall or taller. In the corner of my eye, what I thought I saw was a man wearing a gray sweatshirt with a hood. I was scared. It was the middle of nowhere, and I didn't understand why someone would come out of the woods and run straight into my car when there's no traffic or anything. If they needed to cross the street, why wouldn't they wait until there was no cars coming? So I thought I should call the police. But then I thought, what did I just see? What was that? What do I say to the police? That someone darted out of the woods and ran into my car? So I drove home. I was probably about 30 or 40 minutes away, and I was shaking that I was so scared. I don't know what had just happened to me. I got out to see if there was damage to my car. I thought about calling the police, and I decided it had to be an animal because there was nothing around there. So the next day I looked in the papers, and I looked through everything to see if there was any dead bodies in the road because that would have made the news, and there wasn't anything. So I don't know if it was an animal or what it was. Another thing that was terrifying was that it was running very, very fast. That's why I thought it couldn't have been a person. I knew not to stop. I was going about 65. There was no blood or hair or any damage, really. I checked for the blood because I thought maybe I hit somebody. There wasn't any blood, but there was a slight dent. It's on the driver's side of the car. That's where it smacked into me. You can definitely see the dent, but it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. You can see it, but it wasn't like serious damage to the car or anything. I just wanted to share. Signed, Abby. And that wraps up our bone-chilling journey through some of the most mysterious and terrifying encounters while driving that our viewers have shared with me. I hope these stories sent shivers down your spine as much as they did mine. Have you ever experienced anything unexplained? I would love to hear your stories. Just send them to the email in the description, and they might make it into a future video. Be sure to like this video if it left you wanting more creepy tales, and remember to subscribe to the channel for regular doses of the unexplained. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker out.